これが悪いこと。なぜ人を殺すのは悪いことなのかしら。なぜ人を生かすのは良いことなのかしら。それはなぜ？なぜ？さあ末崎さん、考えて。悪いって何？
やめてくれ。
悪って何かしら。
She had no qualms in making his life a living hell, torturing and taunting him at every chance she could. And why is that? Well, that's because she is pure evil, of course. Hey guys, and welcome to another video. For today we will be recapping the anime Babylon. This anime is what you can call a coordinated mess. Ever heard of the chaos theory? This theory suggests that in randomness and chaos, there is actually order, and a pattern to be found as well. This anime is just like that. It is a detective anime at some point, the other a supernatural case study, and the next it's a horror story. The plot was just all over the place, but piece by piece, I was able to stitch it all together and find that pattern, followed throughout the anime. Without further ado, let's get into the series and what makes Babylon a decent anime in my opinion, of course. So before we start, please remember to subscribe and press on that bell icon, as that is all to be notified about all our latest videos. And it comes without saying, beware of the following spoilers. First, right off the bat, you guys should know that this anime is an acquired taste and will have so many messed up scenes in it that will run chills down your spines. And there is no amount of preparation you can have in order to stomach those scenes. This anime takes a more relatively realistic approach when it comes to its settings and plot. We are introduced in the first scene to Zen Saizuki, a public prosecutor leading a raid on a pharmaceutical company after the scandal concerning a drug distributed in universities. Zen, accompanied with other prosecutors and his assistant Fumio, confiscate hundreds of documents put into boxes for later on to check them and find who is behind the drug. Reading one of the documents, Fumio notices one with a stain on it, in which he mistakenly thinks it's a coffee stain. Under further diagnosis by Zen and Fumio, they discover it is a blood stain, and that the paper had an embedded side into it. As Fumio and Zen open the hidden part of the paper, they are thrown back by the sheer shock on their faces at what they have found. And for even more suspense, lights in the room started to turn off and on. You know, the usual horror tactics and theatrics. We will be back to that later on. What they find, though, is a double padded paper filled with blood, hair, and skin, and the letter F written repeatedly and countless times like some crazed person. After regaining their composure, they resumed on with their usual detective work and sent it to the forensics to find if they are able to identify who the blood belongs to. They later on get a hit on a doctor rushing to the hospital he works in to question him. They are then told that he hasn't been in work for 2 days. They rush to his house only to hear loud classical music bursting from his home, and they enter the house with a warrant, of course, only to find that he had committed suicide using the anesthetic machine used in surgeries, increasing his dose gradually until it hit the lethal mark. His death was decided as a suicide, and Zen was told not to dig any further into it since there are also a will that seems to be completely normal. Of course, Zen knew better and figured that this suicide was capped from the beginning. Tracking back the steps of the doctor, they see him leaving with an unidentified woman that was related in some way to Nomura, one of the most powerful and influential people in Shiniki, and one of the mayoral candidates. Clearly, this case had more depth than it seemed at first, and Zen was prepared to open this case wide open. You see, Zen has a strong sense of justice that is unwavering, and the sense of justice will cause him a lot of trouble and pain over the span of the anime. Following a lead they found, Fumio and Zen tracked down yet another mysterious woman meeting with the leader of the construction committee in Shiniki. Now I bet you guys already added 1 + 1 and understood what is going on, but for those who didn't, Nomura was practically using prostitution to gain votes, which is, newsflash, illegal to do. All they needed to do was put him in jail with a testimony from the girl that she was being used to gain votes for him, and that's it. The case would have been over. But this is the first episode, and like hell that's gonna happen there. The two prosecutors decided to split up and each one to tail another suspect, and we all know the unwritten rule of splitting up in the horror genre. It never ends well, and someone ends up dying. And of course, it won't be Zen, so the role ended up on Fumio. While Zen was in his car and he received an ominous message on his cell phone. As he rushed in his car at full speed, he arrives at Fumio's house to find him hanging himself, with no signs of struggle or battering, concluding it was a suicide. After that incident, Zen became adamant on finding the ones behind his death, since he knew for a fact that he would never commit suicide. Through joint police, journalists, and prosecutors, Zen and his friends arrived to the conclusion that the 3 women they tailed and encountered on different occasions are actually the same women. We are then shot to a flashback on the day Zen had the woman in custody and questioned her. She seemed eerily weird and somewhat off. Usually when someone is being questioned, they have a sense of fear or at least intimidation. This woman, however, remained composed, smirking with her weird-looking smile and pestering Zen whenever she had a chance to, whether it was by not answering his questions clearly or it was the fact that she admitted to have sexual activities with 3 men 40 years older than her, mind you, and called it love at first sight. This woman knew how to play around the bush and press all of Zen's buttons, and if that wasn't enough, she offered to give Zen what he wants and to sign the statement of being used in prostitution for elections if he accepts that she interrogates him, and just like that, the roles were reversed, and she started taunting him with weird questions about morality and what is right and wrong in life. Finally, she asked him, "What does justice mean to you?" After a short break, he returns to the interrogation room to find his college in a daze, like he was sleeping or something, and the woman was nowhere to be found. Back to present time, Zen discovers the name of the vixen he interrogated. She was called Ai Magase, only to yet be shocked by another truth that Nomura, his boss, and many other influential people in Shinigi were collaborating in a much bigger scale scheme, and that woman was in the center of it all. Zen was informed of the existence of something called the Shinigi Initiative, which was the main reason behind the creation of this independent government body in Japan in the first place. Shinigi was to become a testing ground of sorts for new laws and legislations for the world to implement later on. They also revealed that the mayoral elections are fixed, and even though Nomura is ahead of everyone against him, he will lose the elections in the favor of a younger candidate called Kaika Itsuki. All for the sake of leading the initiative from behind the curtains and using Itsuki as a puppet to gain the people's support. It's already a lot to take in, and clearly things become a mess as Zen tried to make sense of what is going on around him. And to make matters worse, after the mayoral elections concluded as they said they will with the victory of Itsuki, he disappears along with Ai Magase without a trace, only to appear later on showing up on all the screens of televisions and phones in Shinigi declaring the implementation of the new law. The law of suicide, giving every person the right to take his own life whenever he wishes to. To make things worse, 64 random people jump off the building, committing suicide with a smile on their face, including one of Zen's colleagues, and with that, he disappeared yet again. Events carry on, and the world governments and Shinigi are confused in deciding where they stand when it comes to the suicide law, and have no idea how to deal with it. Clearly, though, the opposing party of the law were the majority, however, this was all nothing but a political game. The true evil working behind the scenes was Ai Magase, a woman so evil. She was the incarnation of it, a being born of pure malice and villainy. Saizuki attempts to kidnap Itsuki after the hearing of the suicide law opposition, versus the one siding with it, aka only Itsuki. The plan goes off the rails and the whole team of detectives and special units officers commits suicide, including Zen's friend Kujin. He returns to Zen with his leg shot, revealing to him that he did that to himself in order to have enough time to warn him of Ai Magase's the one behind the death of everyone. By revealing to him how it feels to be under her control, he said that it feels like having sex, even though you're not, and that she is driving him insane to the point of no return, to a point where nothing matters anymore, and all he will want is to kill himself. And just before shooting himself, he calls Zen his dear friend and tells him of her powers, and that if he ever encounters Ai, to just run without giving it another thought. He ends his life, and Zen discovers that all his colleagues were killed by her as well, just by whispering a few words in their ears. She made all the men commit suicide and abduct Sekiro, the second assistant Zen had under his care. In the next episode, she taunts him with a gruesome video of her cutting off the limbs of Sekiro one by one, while she was still alive, making her go through all the excruciating pain only then to cut off her head, all while Zen watched helplessly, crying to his screen and begging her to stop. This woman was pure evil and later was dubbed to be the horror of Babylon, spoken of in the testaments as of being a pure evil and malice that wants nothing else but to ruin the world and destroy it. Ai is like that movie The Omen, where the baby is the son of the devil himself and causes the death of everyone around him, especially those that try to stop him. Ai has the powers of complete mind manipulation, controlling what a person does or thinks just by her being there and existing in front of them. And with just one word, she can dull the sense of a person, figuratively raping their minds, breaking their wills, and turning them into her puppets. With Zen losing everything he had in Shinigi and failing to save his loved ones, he joins the FBI in hopes that the United States and the other most powerful nations are able to put an end to this law and stop Magase ending her plans. This anime is that of thriller, suspense, and horror, keeping you on edge throughout all of the episodes, attempting to decipher what is really happening. It is enigmatic and suspenseful, just like any cop thriller should be, and I enjoyed every bit of it for the exact reason. It was an interesting show to say the least, and had a lot of philosophical ideologies and morals to test throughout it. As I said before though, this shoe isn't for everyone. and it is an acquired taste. It is fun and thrilling, yet it is a horror anime, and has got some really sick themes to back that up if you enjoyed this glimpse of the series. And if you really enjoyed this glimpse of the series, then by all means go and check it out. Hope this video was useful to you in granting you some insight on what to expect in the show. With that being said, I hope you all enjoyed this video just as much as I enjoyed making it for you. And remember to like, share, and hit the subscribe button. And also, don't forget to hit that notification bell to keep yourself notified of all our latest new content. And as for now, I'll catch you later. See you in the next one.